Hello, this is John from caveofprogramming.com, and in the last tutorial I actually said that we would look at generics in Java, but after I thought about it I realised that there are a few things that we should cover first before getting on to generics. So I'm going to try to get some tutorials out pretty quickly on some other subjects, and in this tutorial we're going to look at the access level modifiers or access specifiers, public, private and protected. So let's look at the simplest one first. Let's look at public. I'm going to create a new class here, so I'm going to right click the project, go to new class, and let's call this machine. Now just for a change, let's call it plant. So I'll call it plant, and I'm going to give plant a instance member variable here. So I'm going to call this let's say string name, and yeah, let's just leave it at string name, and I'm going to make string name public. Now supposing I create a plant instance here in my main method, so I'll say plant. I'll create a variable so that I've got a reference to it, and I'll set that equal to a new instance of plant like this. Now if you've got a instance variable or a member variable that's called that's declared public, you can access it from anywhere. So within plant, let's say for example in the constructor, so public plant like this, of course I could access it here. I could say name equals let's say let's just say I'm a plant, and that's a stupid name for a plant. How about Freddy? Okay, so if you want to access instance variables within the class, you don't need to prefix them with anything, but some people like to prefix them with this, and that just means that's kind of superfluous here. But the point is that you can access name within the class, of course, but you can access it from anywhere else too. So I can say plant dot well, let's just say sysout here, sysout plant dot name. So absolutely anywhere where I've got a reference to a plant object, I can access name, and this is bad practice usually. So bad practice because you shouldn't usually declare instance variables public like this. The idea is you usually want to encapsulate them, hide them away from the world, and make people access them through methods so you can control what's happening with them. If you do want to have a public instance variable, most often you're going to make it constant, and if it's constant, usually you'll also make it static so that you access it through the class. So I'll say public static I don't know, like ID for example, or yeah, ID is as good as anything. Public static in ID, so I'm putting this in uppercase to signify that it's going to be constant, and I'm going to say final, which will mean that it can't be changed, it's constant, and I'm going to initialize it to just some number like 8, and then you could say here, you could access that again from anywhere, but I can't change it from anywhere because it's final, and I'll say plant.id. So if I run that, it's just going to output there the name and the ID there, and this is acceptable practice. There's nothing wrong with declaring public constants like this, as long as it's final. Okay, meaning constant. So that's public. It's pretty simple, meaning you can access the variables anywhere. And by the way, this here just means the same as plant here. It's just that if you want to access a object's member variables from within the actual class, then you use this dot to get a reference to it, whereas externally you'd have some named reference like this, but it's the same thing basically. Anyway, that's not important. So The next simplest one is probably private. So to illustrate private, I'm going to create a subclass of plant. So I'm going to go here and say new class, and let's call this oak, because an oak is a plant. And I'm going to say oak extends plant, and let's just give that a constructor as well. So public oak, like this. I'm pressing the wrong key on my keyboard. Okay, there we go. Now, supposing in plant I declare something private. So let's leave these together up here, and I'll go down here. And usually, when you have an instance member variable or a class variable, a static variable, some kind of variable up here, basically, usually you want to declare it private. You want to stop people accessing it from outside the class. If I say private string type, let's say, and so now string is private, and private means it's the opposite to public, really. Public means you can access it anywhere. Private means you can only access it from within this class. So I could happily say type equals plant here, so I can use type here, or if I want I can say this dot type, makes no difference. But even though oak is a child class, I cannot say here type equals tree. So that's giving me an error, and it's saying the field plant.type is not visible because it's private. So let's say won't work, type is private. So I can only access type literally within these brackets here, because that's the scope of the class. I can't access it anywhere else. I can't access it here either. So system.out, let's say sysout plant.type. That's not going to work either. So again, I'll say won't work, type is private. So private means only within the class, and only within the class means within these brackets after your class declaration. Now often you want to have a variable which can't be accessed from the outside, so it's not public, and you can't, it's protected from being accessed here, for example, in a completely different class. This is the app class, but you want it to be you want it to be accessible in child classes, and that's what protected is for. So let's have something here. Let's say protected. Let's say protected string size, and I'll set size equal to this dot. Actually, let's put this down a bit further. So down here, let's say this dot size equals large, and you'd normally want to actually I'll set it equal to medium. Usually you'd want to use enumerated type for this kind of thing, but I'm just trying to illustrate the public, private and protected stuff here, so I won't worry about that. So if you've got a protected variable, you can access it within the class, that's fine. Actually you can access, it doesn't matter what access level modifier you put here, you can always access them within the class. That's always possible. But if I go to oak now and I want to say this dot size equals large, oak trees are pretty big, then this is going to work now, because size is protected, and protected means that you can access it within the class, within any subclass, and also within any package. Also within the same package. So this works because size is protected and oak is a subclass. of plant. So protected lets you access the variable within the class, so within these brackets, and within any subclass, and also within the same package anywhere. So let's create a new class here, and let's call it field, like this. And let's give field an oak. Actually, let's give it a plant. So I'll say plant, and equals new plant. I'm going to make this plant variable private. So when you do new plant, you can do it happily up here, or you could do new plant in a constructor as well. And let's give it a constructor while we're at it. So here now we're in the default package. So here I can say plant. Let's see, plant dot size, and actually I could just do a sysout on that. So sysout plant dot size, and this works as well. So if I save that, this works. Size is protected, and field is in the same package as plant. So that's fine. And let's just kind of emphasize this a bit by saying everything's in the default package at the moment. So I could access plant.size within main as well, because my app here, the class that main is in, is also within the default package. But let's just create a new package here. So let's call this world. It should be lowercase actually. I'll call that world. And let's just drag these plants into world like this, and just let Eclipse refactor it. So this kind of emphasizes that plant is in the world package, field is in the world package. So for that reason I can access the protected variable plant.size. But if we go to app, which is now in a different package, and I try to say sysout plant.size, then it won't work. Size is protected. Size is protected, and app is not in the same package as plant, so it won't work. Won't work. So that's public, private, and protected. So private just within the same class, public absolutely anywhere, protected within the same class or within the same package. And there's one more possibility, and that's that you could have no access level modifier, no access specifier. So I could say here string, let's say int height, and so I haven't given this a public, private, or protected. And if you do that, this is now package level visibility. So I can access height, of course. In plant you can always access stuff within the same class. You can always access the instance variables from within the same class. Let's just say 8 there. I can access that within, let's say, oak. I can say this dot height equals 10 or something. So no access specifier. So works because oak and plant in the same package. But you see, it is possible to have a child class which is not in the same package. And by the way, let me just show you that because the app class here is not in the same it's not in the same package as plant, I can't do sysout plant.height. So this won't work because app and plant in different packages, and height has package level visibility. But there's just one more possibility here, which is that I could create a new child class here. Let's say new class, and let's call this grass, and I'm going to say grass extends plant, and I'm going to just add the import there, Ctrl+Shift+O, to import world.plant, and let's give this a constructor, so public grass. And now, supposing I try to do sysout this dot height, it's not going to work because if I look at plant, height has no access specifier. That means it's visible only in the same package, and even though grass is a subclass of plant, we still can't access this here. So this won't work. Grass not in same package as plant, even though it's a subclass. So that's a lot, and let's comment that out so it actually runs. And that's all I want to say for this tutorial. I'm just going to summarize that again now, but if your brain is already bursting at the seams or you're just bored, then this is a good place to stop watching. But let's just summarize these different possibilities here. So if I put this here and I say, let's say private only within same class, and public from anywhere, and protected means same class and same, child class, subclass is what I should say, subclass and same package, and no modifier means same package only. And of course you can always access things from within the same class. So I could say same class protected, same class subclass, same package, and of course same package implies that you can access it from within the same class. So I think that's it. And people sometimes get confused between public, private and protected and the modifiers on the classes themselves. If you can only, when you create a class in a file, like let's look at plant, if you declare it public, that means it's visible from outside that file, and it's got to have the same name. You can only have one public class in a file, and it's got to have the same name as the file. You can't declare classes private, so I can't say private class something here, something like this, because this public, private and protected stuff does not apply to classes. It only applies to these instance variables, but you can miss off the access specifier altogether, and then this is just visible within this file, and you can have as many classes as you want in one file, but as I say, only one public class because it has to match the file name. So that's it for public, private and protected. I'm going to put all this source code on caveofprogramming.com, and join me again for the next tutorial, and until then, happy coding.